Now you only have two lesson videos for this section, and the lesson videos are going to double as your homework example videos. So this lesson video is going to be an example of how to do the first 5 problems on your assignment, and the next lesson video is going to be an example of how to do the last 5 problems on your assignment. And this one should be kind of a review of proportional relationships and how they look in graphs, tables, and equations. So we'll see how quickly we can get through this one. So it says Natalie works on her family's ranch for 3 hours each day. Express this relationship in the table, the graph, and the equation. First of all, let's figure out what her unit rate is, and it's given to us. It says she works 3 hours per day. So 3 hours per day. Okay, that's the unit rate that we're working with here. Okay, next let's fill in our table. It's always a good idea, if you're asked to do each of these 3 things, it's always a good idea to start with a table, because the table has information in it that will help you write the equation and that will help you do your graph. So always start with the table. So let's see how many hours she works in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and X days. Okay, after 1 day, we know that she's worked 3 hours. After 2 days, we multiply that by the unit rate. So after 2 days, she's worked 6 hours. After 3 days, she's worked 9 hours. How many hours has she worked after X days? Now, X is just a variable that represents any number of days. It could represent 4 days, 5, 10, 31, whatever. But we just want to know, how do we figure out how many hours she's worked in X amount of days? Well, we follow the exact same pattern. We take the number of days and multiply that by 3 hours. And that tells me how many hours she's worked. So I take the unit rate and multiply it by how many days it's been. And that tells me how many hours total that she's worked. Okay, now this last box is going to help me to write the equation. So her equation, y, the number of hours that she works, is equal to 3 times x. So the number of hours that she works is equal to the unit rate times how many days have passed. This is the equation for this relationship. Now let's graph this. The table gives me the points to graph. So the first line says the point 1, 3. So 1, 3 is right here. The next point is 2, 6, 2, 6. The next point is 3, 9. And that's as many as we have, but that's enough to draw a line. So we start down here at the origin, and our line looks something like this. Okay, now we have one more page to look at. I'm going to copy this. Oops. Forget that you saw that. Okay, so it's the same situation, and it says, is this a proportional relationship? And how do you know? So this is something that you should remember from a couple of lessons ago. And the way we tell if it's a proportional relationship is we make sure that the ratio of hours to days is constant or the same. So our ratio is just a fancy word for fraction, hours to days. And we're going to set up each of these ratios and make sure they're all equal. So hours to days, 3 over 1. 3 over 1, that's just 3. Then we have 6 over 2, hours to days. 6 divided by 2 is just 3. And we have 9 hours to 3 days. But 9 divided by 3 is just 3. So notice each of these ratios equals 3. And so that tells me that this is a proportional relationship. Another way that I can tell that it's a proportional relationship is when I look at the graph, I notice that it's a straight line and that it starts at the origin 0, 0. Okay, so those two things, the straight line that starts at 0, 0, and the ratios being constant tells me that it's a proportional relationship.